Hello and welcome to my studio. In this video I'm going to show you how I made this picture. This picture is tack sharp from front to back. This was achieved with a focus stacking technique. It's possible to replicate this style for a variety of subjects, and in this video I will show you exactly how I did it. Okay, so this is what I've got set up so far. This is a piece of old fallen dead wood, and I've placed some greenery and some flowers at the back. This will form the subject. Right, so in order to capture that subject, I'm going to use this camera. Now this is a medium format camera, but this technique will work with virtually anything. A lot of the modern cameras have a focus stacking system built into them, and that is what I'm going to make use of in this camera. But I'm also using this because it's very modular and very generic. So by using this, it will be easier for you to apply the techniques that I show to the cameras and systems that you use. So to set up the shot, what I'm going to do is just place the camera in the front here, and we'll just look through the viewfinder and set up the initial composition. Okay, so just looking through the viewfinder, I'll initially just focus on the flowers at the back. So I'll just press the autofocus button and it'll get me in the right ballpark. And now I'll just wind this up a little. I want a viewpoint which is about level with the subject. And I'll just swing that down a little just to get the subject in the field of view. Okay, so with all that done, the next thing I'll do is I'll plug this into Capture One software so that it's easy to see the results as we go along. So there we are, it's all plugged in, it's all turned on, and we're all ready to go. So the first thing I'm going to do is just have a look at what settings I have on the camera at the moment. So you can see here that it's in full manual mode. I have a shutter speed of 1/125th of a second. Now that's the flash sync speed for the focal plane shutter in the back of this camera. Your cameras will be different, and the idea is that you want to use the fastest shutter speed that will still synchronize properly with your flash. Okay, so I have a sensitivity of 100 ISO, and at the moment I've got an aperture set of f2.8. Now not only is that a very narrow depth of field, but it's also the widest that this lens will go. So this will be worst case for contamination from the house lights. So with these settings, what I'm going to do is just grab an image and we'll see what we get. And there you are, you can see that with no flash set, I'm actually getting a reasonable image here, and this is all contamination. So this is not what we want. So the first thing I'm going to do is alter the aperture to f8. So let's just do that. There we are, and with that done, I'll just grab that again. And there we are at those settings, which is much more likely what I'm going to be using. That doesn't give me a picture at all, which is exactly what I want. So now any light which I add will be the only light which affects the subject. Okay, so to light this, what I'm going to do is put a reasonably large softbox just above the subject here. So this is what I'm going to be using. This is a 1 foot by 4 foot softbox, and I've got a studio head at the top here. So I'm just going to pop that up in the air a little. And now I'm just going to move it just into position across the top of the subject. So the back of this is more or less in line with the back of the subject itself. And in this direction, everything is on axis. Now I've arranged it like this so that in this direction I'm going to end up with a reasonably soft light. But in this direction, it's going to be a little bit harder. And that should make the subject fall off fairly dramatically at the edges. So that's all now plugged in and ready to go. It may look a little elaborate, but this can be done just with a speedlight in a similar sized soft box like this. Flash is a lot more efficient, and therefore you can get away with using relatively small light units. Okay. One of the advantages of using this camera with this type of setup is that the flash sync trigger is actually built into the camera. So to get me an initial exposure, to get in the right ballpark, I can use a TTL through the lens exposure metering system built into the camera just to set the light up initially. Okay, so to do that, I'll just start by accessing the flash sync trigger, like so, and I'll change that from manual to TTL. And now we'll just grab an image. There we are. So we've been able to capture a reasonable exposure straight away, and the focus is pretty good at the back here, but it's going out of focus at the front. If I just zoom all the way in, you can see that we've got a very sharp image at the back, but the front is a little lacking. Now also there's a few other things not quite right yet. There's a little bit of flare which you may be able to make out at the top here. Now that's caused by light from here directly entering the lens. So I just need to put a small card flag across here just to stop that. The other thing is I haven't set a background yet. In the original image, you could see that the background had a gentle glow behind the subject. Now that was achieved just with the aid of a C-stand, like this one, and some background paper. So here we are. Just pull this down a little and just take this up in the air a bit. There we go. Somewhere around there should do. Now I don't normally use background paper because it does wrinkle quite badly, but at this sort of distance I think it will be out of focus enough not to matter. So the other thing that I need is just that flag to stop the flare entering the camera. So here I have a piece of card just attached to this stand. Just put this up a little like that. There we are. And just put that above the lens there. Now that should stop any flare from here entering the camera lens. We'll see how we go. I'll just make sure it's out of the field of view, which it is. We'll grab a test image and see what we get. Okay, so we've stopped the flare. It is actually just in the field of view. I can see the card at the top here, but I don't think that will matter for the time being. So at this point what I want to do is take control over the energy in the light here, and the way that I'm going to do that is take it out of TTL and put it back in manual. You may have noticed that every time I grabbed an image it actually fired twice. The first time is to set the level and the second time is to capture the image. So if I now just change that back to manual, I'll just grab the flash sync trigger, take it out of TTL and put it into manual, like so. Okay, so with that now done, I have got complete control over the energy in this head. So one of the things that I think I might need to do is just lower this slightly. As you can see in the image here, it's all a little uniform, which is not really what I want. I want to make use of the inverse square law. So I need to get this softbox a lot closer. Now obviously I'm going to need to take some energy out of the system because I've made it closer, so I'll just take a stop off and we'll see how we go. Here we are, and we'll just grab that again. There we are. Now that's much more like the sort of thing that I want. So this is what we had before, and this is what we've got now. So this is considerably more moody, but you can still make out the table here, so I'm going to need to do something about that. And the front of this is also a little dark. So to address that first, I'm just going to use this card, and I'm just going to place this at the front here, just to recycle some of this light back into the subject again. And just to stop the table showing up, I'm just going to use some black cloth just to mask it off. There we are. So with those small changes made, we'll just grab that again and see what we get this time. So this is starting to come together now. The table is no longer a problem. The front here has been filled in, possibly a little too much. This is what we had before. This is what we've got now. So I think I'd like to just take some of this out. And to do that, I'm just going to use another piece of card and just cover it up. So basically, I'm making the area smaller, like that. So we'll just grab that again and see what it looks like now. There we are, that's better. So we've gone from that to that. Okay, but so far we still haven't done anything about having the whole thing in focus. If I just have a look at this image, and if I just zoom in, you can see that the back is nicely in focus and the front is way out. Now I could try just taking the aperture up a little bit just to give me a bit more depth of field. So let's do that. So I'll take it from f8 up to f22. Now that's a 3-stop change, so in order to just make everything equal, I'll have to add 3 stops of energy to this light. So I can just do that from the control here, or just grab that again. Okay, and now you should be able to see there's very little difference in exposure, but this has become a little bit sharper. But strangely, the background has actually got a little softer. And the foreground is still not very sharp. Now that's because the lenses, and in most cases, most lenses are optimized for mid-range. So if you actually push them to the edges, either the 2.8 or the f22, as I've done in this case, you'll find that the overall performance will drop off, quite markedly in some cases. So in order to be able to use the sharpest part of the lens, what I'm going to do is employ focus stacking. So the first thing I'm going to do is put this back at f8, like so. And I'll reset the energy in the flash. Okay, so just to complete the overall look before we get into the focus stacking, what I'm going to do is just set another light just at the back here, just to give me that glow on the background. So basically, I'm just going to set this light up. About there somewhere. We'll just plug that in. There we are, so that's all plugged in now. And just to impart some colour, I'm just going to use this filter gel just in front of the light. So I'll just attach this to the reflector here, just like that. There we are. Now to get the exposure right on this one, what I'm actually going to do is just temporarily turn this one off and turn this one at the back on. Once again, I can do that from here. I'll just grab an image. And there you can see that in here, this is way over. There is no simple way to do this. It's usually just trial and error, see what it looks like. So what I'm going to do is just take, 4 stops off that and see how we go. Yes, that's the sort of thing. So with that done, I can now just turn this back on, we'll do a final test, and then I'll start setting up the focus stacking. And there we are. So that's the image set. Okay, so in order to initiate the focus stacking, a lot of cameras these days have an automated focus stacking system built into them, and this is no exception. So all I'm going to do is set a focus point at the back here, and then I'm going to set another focus point at the front here, and then ask it to take 10 images between the two. And what it will do is just work through and change the focus to slice it into 10 separate pictures. Okay, so to initiate all that, I'll just set up the focus stacking on here. So I'll just swipe through the controls until I get to focus stack, and at this point I'll start up live view on the computer, and we'll zoom in and just pick a point at the very back, and using the controls here I can set the focus. There we are. And now I want to set the foreground. I'll just move this onto part of the foreground and just set the focus there too. Like so. I'd like it to take 10 images, like that. So with all that set, I can just initiate the capture. And there we are. We now have a set of images in here, if I just run through them, which goes from front to back, like so. There we are. So as far as capturing the images is concerned, that's it. Now if your camera system doesn't have an automated system such as this for doing focus stacking, you can always do it manually just by turning the focus ring on the lens. So the next stage would be to export all those images to a focus stacking software. So here we are, and I'm using Helicon Focus Pro to do the stacking. So all I need to do is just import the images that I captured earlier. So with the images all imported, I can just set up the rendering method. Now I'm going to use method A. This works best for images such as this where there are no obvious straight lines. Okay, and you just hit the render button and off it goes. So this is the file it has created, and I'll just export that into Photoshop. So this is the completed image opened up in Photoshop. And I'll just zoom all the way in to 100%. We'll have a good look round. You should be able to see this is truly sharp from front to back. So that's the back. Bit of mid-range. And here we have the front, which is also sharp. Now I've also got some of the original images up here just as a comparison. So this is the first one that was taken, for instance. So again, I'll zoom all the way in. So as we move forwards through these, you should be able to see the effect of the focus stacking. There we go. Even resolved some cobweb here. So there we have it. With a couple of relatively simple techniques, it's possible to create an image which is truly tack sharp from the front right through to the back. And together with some careful lighting to bring out the best in all the textures, that's resulted in a really nice still life study. Okay, well I hope you liked watching how I made that image, and if you like watching these sort of things, do click on the other images as they appear, and don't forget to subscribe. Oh, and hit the like button. Thank you very much for watching.